This is a show with no particular niche, baby. It's always about hanging out. Maybe we'll laugh at some stuff, maybe we'll learn something new, but it's always about hanging out, me and you. Hi, hello, and welcome to That Thing with James. I'm your host, James, and welcome to the show. Thanks for tuning in. If you're new, hey, what's up? As I just said in the intro song, this is a show about nothing in particular. The show has no particular niche. So in essence, I just do whatever I feel like doing on this series. And if you're a returning listener and or viewer, welcome back. And if you're new, audio listeners, you can view this show and see my unshorn visage say the words you're hearing now on my YouTube channel, which you can find on YouTube. In the search bar, type in, on the website, type in That Thing with James, and my channel will pop up, and you can subscribe to it and like and share, upvote and share and write very nice comments on all of the episodes. And I'm not being facetious. When I say write nice comments, I mean nice comments. Because if you're mean, I will delete your ass. By the way, this is let's say, a 17 plus, 18 plus year old show, age wise, audience wise, because I may or may not use coarse language. But that's not what the show's about. And this is not a shock jock type thing. It's simply a hangout with me and you. What's up? I've got something. For this episode. Something I've not done in a while on this show. What I have is a rant. Yes, I'm going on a rant in this episode about movies and TV shows and how, well, episodes rather, not the shows altogether, but the episodes, TV episodes and movies, and how too many of them are longer than they deserve, read as need, really, to be. But first, quick business. I'm on Patreon. I don't have sponsors. I don't run ads on this show. This is purely me, one-man show, and a little bit of help from my few patrons. If you are a patron, thank you so much. You rock. And if you want to become a patron, it's not like you're not getting anything in return. If you become a patron, you will get over 140 bonus episodes, full access to all of them. And if you subscribe to higher tiers, there are different perks that I offer. So if you want to help support the show and get a lot of episodes in return, a lot, you can do so at patreon.com/thatthingwithjames. Once again, that's patreon.com/thatthingwithjames. Save a pigeon, support an artist. I wrote that joke. On the YouTube thing, I've got a banner that pops up that says, like, save a pigeon, feed an artist, something like that. I don't know. No one's ever commented on that, so I don't know if that joke lands. But the idea is that, I'm a starving artist, which I am a starving artist. I'm not just a podcaster. I'm a starving artist. And I may starve so much that I start hunting and eating pigeons. That's the joke. I don't know if anyone has ever caught that on the YouTube videos, but it's there. And it's been there for a few years now. And I thought it was pretty clever when I wrote it, and I still think it's pretty clever, so I've not gotten rid of it. So yeah, you can support the show, save a pigeon, feed an artist, and get a shit ton of bonus episodes at patreon.com/thatthingwithjames. And again, to those of you who are already patrons, thank you. You can find that link written in the episode description. Also, I'm on TikTok, whatever. I've really given up on chasing subscribers and followers and stuff. If you want to tag along for the ride, welcome. You are welcome. Unless I end up kicking you out for some reason, but that hasn't happened yet. But just know if you step out of line, I will give you the boot. Anyway, yeah, there are too many movies, and it has become more pronounced, I'd say, over the past 10 years because of two things, really. Technology, digital technology. It's easier now than it ever was before to film something, your own show, your own movie, because you're only limited to what you can afford in terms of what you can store on a drive, right? And being able to have a camera and something to edit the video and audio on. Because of this, ease of access to the tools one would need to make an episode, a short, or a feature-length movie, because of this ease of access, more people are doing it, which is good. However, it's also opened the door to damn unlimited runtime. Just about, and in some cases, literally unlimited runtime. Because you're not restricted by how much footage, how many feet of film, actual celluloid film you have to work with. You're not limited by that anymore. But I'm gonna defer to two quotes real quick, okay? The first one is, no good movie is too long, and no bad movie is short enough. That was a quote from Roger Ebert of Siskel and Ebert fame. No good movie is too long, and no bad movie is short enough. Yes, but I've got a caveat about good movies, that a good movie can't be too long. I've got a caveat, but I'll get to that later. For now, that was the first quote. Now I'm going to the second quote, okay? Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they never stopped to think if they should. Ring a bell? I'll say it again. Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they never stopped to think if they should. That's a quote from from Jurassic Park, from the character Dr. Ian Malcolm, specifically in the movie. And also, I've read the book. It's a great book. Where the fuck is my copy? I want to reread it. I don't know where it went. It disappeared between apartments, and I don't know how the fuck, because I don't have that much stuff. And I certainly had even less when I switched apartments like 3.5 years ago, right? Where did my copy of Jurassic Park go, man? This sucks. I want to reread it. It's such a good book. But also, Ian Malcolm is, as a character, is way, like, universes more charming in the movie than he was in the book. And then also the guy, in the movie, the sweet grandpa who owns Jurassic Park, it was his great idea. He's not so sweet in the book. In the book, he's a fucking cynical leech capitalist. Yeah. Also, the book was surprisingly way more horror than I expected. I mean, I'm a guy. I'm 38. I grew up in the 90s and early 2000s. Of course, Jurassic Park, 1993 came out. I was born like at the end. I was born when there was like 2 weeks left of 1987. So 93. So that's like 5 years in a few weeks, depending on when in 1993 the first Jurassic Park movie came out. Yeah, that movie was my jam. And it still is. I love Jurassic Park, and I hadn't read the book until 4 or 5 years ago. Let's see. Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago. And it's a great book. And I was surprised at how much of a horror genre it was. I didn't expect that. I did not expect that. Also, the beginning of the book is not covered in the first movie. Really, the beginning of the book is covered in the beginning of the second Jurassic Park movie. But one of the things I love, I mean, the second movie's the only really great Jurassic Park movie is the original one, right? And the book is great as well. And both of the movie and the book benefit from one thing. Two things, but really it's one thing that results in the second thing. Good editing, aka pacing, aka it keeps your attention. Things happen. There is momentum. Characters and circumstances develop quickly. And that's a good thing. That far too many movies and TV episodes lack now. I'm going to get into this rant. I'm going to I'm going to bounce off with an article, but first I'm going to have a sip of coffee and then a sip of water. Water. I'll be right back. Here's the thing. Let's focus on movies real quick, just real quick. I miss a tight 90. I miss a tight 90. And I think the majority of movies coming out now really would benefit. I mean, they wouldn't be as bad. I mean, they're bad, but they wouldn't be so egregious if they were 90 fucking minutes instead of 2 hours. Not so many movies deserve to be 2 hours. Not so many movies deserve to be 2.5 hours. Not so many movies deserve to be 3+ hours. And yes, I basically agree with Roger Ebert that no good movie's too long and no bad movie's short enough. However, even my favorite movie suffered from being too fucking long. I'm talking about Apocalypse Now. I saw the theatrical version first. That's what I grew up with. And then years later, I watched Redux, which a lot of people say they like. And then a group, not as vocal group, kind of didn't like it as much. I fall into that group, okay? Apocalypse Now Redux adds like 45 minutes to the movie, and the movie is already like pretty long. I forget how long the theatrical version is. I think it's over 2 hours. I think it's like 2.5 hours or something. But it was good. It had good pacing. There were no wasted seconds. And hear me out, okay? Slow does not necessarily mean boring. Take, for example, the opening to There Will Be Blood. Arguably, it's a little... What happens, there's no dialogue. I don't remember if there's music beyond maybe just bringing us into the scene. Johnny Greenwood's Zion guitar or whatever playing. But there's no dialogue for a while at the beginning of There Will Be Blood. However, something is happening. You're watching things happen. Someone is solving problems. Plot points are being met. The story is being propelled forward. You're learning about the character without dialogue, without Coco Melon jump cuts, camera cuts, right? It's slow, it's quiet, it's methodical. However, something is happening. And that is interesting. Something is happening to capture your interest, to capture your attention, to get your mind working. Who is this? Why are they doing this? How are they going to get out of this mess? Oh my God, he broke his leg. How is he going to get out of this? So slow does not necessarily mean boring. However, slow does not also necessarily mean intelligent, artistic, mature, or mature. If you're my dad, mature. That's how he says it, mature. I hate that, mature. God, I sound like one of those fucking conservative radio guys. I hate that, mature. No real man says mature. It's mature, right? Back in my day, blah. No, man. Slow's not necessarily boring, but also slow does not inherently mean interesting. It does not inherently mean intelligent, artistic, mature. Okay? And so much stuff, so many very long movies would be a lot better if they were a little bit shorter. Going back to Apocalypse Now, it's my favorite movie. It's my number one favorite movie, okay? Redux, the added scenes in Redux, while interesting, while well executed, fuck with the pacing. It fucks with the momentum. It takes all of the momentum, all of the story to a grinding halt. Yeah. And because of that, the overall film suffers. The overall experience suffers. It gets sleepy. Yeah, this is interesting stuff, but this doesn't really need to be here. This isn't necessary for the story, you know? And you could argue nothing's really necessary to anything. Whatever. Fuck you. I'm talking. This is my show. This is my rant. Overall, it suffers. And I think Coppola, assuming he's the one that, directed the editing for these various versions, understood that, because I'm in the midst of watching, because I've got very limited time now. I'm in the midst of watching the final cut. So there's 3 versions of Apocalypse Now. There's the theatrical version, which came out first, and then came Redux, which added like 45 minutes or so. And then there is I think it's called the final cut. Let's say it's called the final cut, which is more recent, which finds a middle ground between the theatrical version and Redux. And I'm halfway into the final cut right now. And sorry, this is going to be a spoiler, but the movie's been out since 78? I'm at the point where they just went through the USO show and they're gone. They're past the USO show. We just got right past the tiger, and we're about to get to the point where they get the puppy on board. That just really, that's the moment in the movie where the tone shifts and cannot come back. Like, that is the irredeemable act from which there's no going back. That's the sign in the movie. That's the sign in the story. Yeah. But in the USO show, they go to the USO show and then they leave. And then it's like the tiger scene in the theatrical version. In Redux, they go to the USO show and then they meet the Playboy bunnies. and have a wild night with them that just keeps going on and on and on and on. And it's not really fucking necessary. This is not an anti-sex scene or anything like that at all. It's just, it's well executed and all, but it's fucking slow and it doesn't really fit or serve the overall story. And it fucks with the momentum. Now, I've not gotten to the French people yet. I'm not sure how that's going to be handled. It's an interesting scene. It's interesting conversations. However, at the same time, it still fucks with the momentum of the overall story. And it doesn't really quite serve the overall story. Yeah? So I'm curious. But so far, it seems that Coppola understood Redux too fucking long, and the momentum got ruined by that extra 45 minutes. So maybe now he's like, let's include some of the extra footage, but not all of it, because pacing, momentum, relevance matters. Yeah. Now, this article that I mentioned, this is on The Guardian, written by Stuart Heritage. Interesting last name. Published 9 July 2025. Title, Small Screen, Big Investment. TV episodes have become way too long. Episodes of The Bear, Stranger Things, and Lena Dunham's new show, Too Much, are stretching the limits of television and reducing our enjoyment in the process. This is me reading the article right now, by the way. The big debate over The Bear, apart from the one about whether it's still any good or not, which is another matter entirely, regards its genre. I only watched the first season of The Bear. I was like, this is not a fucking comedy. As someone who has worked back of house in restaurants, this movie's fucking stressful. Hence why I didn't feel compelled to watch any more of it. But let's keep reading here. Once the darling of the Emmys, The Bear initially called itself a comedy, despite not really having any jokes or levity or fun in it. And this was down to some bad maths about its duration. The Bear was a half-hour show, and sitcoms are half-hour shows, and therefore The Bear must be a sitcom. No. However, in its fourth season, The Bear was no longer a half-hour show. Of its 10 new episodes, none are less than 30 minutes long. True, one is 31 minutes, and 3 more scrape in just under 35 minutes, but one is 38 minutes long, 2 more stretch on for 40 minutes or more, and one somehow manages to be 1 hour and 11 minutes long. Now, it's important that we shouldn't pick on The Bear only. Plenty of shows are at it. Netflix's new Lena Dunham series, Too Much, is equally elastic when it comes to runtimes, with episodes lasting anywhere from 31 and 56 minutes long. And then there's Stranger Things, which ballooned from an average runtime of 50.6 minutes in Season 1 to 86.8 minutes in Season 4. Holy fuck! And it's only getting worse. It's only going to get worse. From all the chatter about the upcoming final season of Stranger Things, another show I didn't watch past the first season, it sounds like you should reasonably expect to die of old age at some point before the end of episode 4. In a way, this was to be expected. The death of scheduled linear television means that programs no longer have to staunchly adhere to set runtimes. A sitcom no longer has to be exactly 22 minutes long, because it doesn't have to duck out of the way for mandatory ad breaks and wrap-ups so that everyone can watch the news. At first, this was considered a good thing. For once, creativity got to trump commerce. Writers and producers were finally able to tell stories they wanted to tell with no concessions to be made to schedulers or advertisers. Because this is a British website, advertisers. I don't know if I know they call them advertisements, but do they also call them advertisers or advertisers? I don't know. Let's keep reading. It meant that we, the viewers, were being gifted uncut, unfiltered access to the minds of the greatest storytellers known to humanity. What a treat! Except now it's starting to become increasingly apparent that the minds of the greatest storytellers known to man might benefit from the service of a good editor. Interjection. What's his name who wrote Being John Malkovich and Adaptation, all that other stuff? I've got something to say, but Charlie Kaufman, better when he's not in total control. Charlie Kaufman, better within parameters. Charlie Kaufman, better with checks and balances. On his own, long and fucking boring. Let's keep reading. Although they're free to make episodes of any length they like, that almost universally means that they're going to be longer, not shorter. This isn't necessarily a good thing. There's a reason why Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, fun show, started to suffer in quality as it went along. The first and best season was initially made for NBC, so it was tight and fast and broadcast ready. Subsequent seasons were made for Netflix, and although episodes only gained about 5 minutes extra each, those 5 minutes were full of weaker jokes that would almost certainly have been cut for time. And that's just 5 minutes. At least one new Stranger Things episode is rumored to run over 2.5 hours. It sounds absolutely exhausting, especially if, like a lot of us, you're quite time poor. On an average evening, once dinner has been cooked and plates have been washed up and the children have finally been wrestled to bed, you might only have a maximum of 2 hours to watch everything you want to watch before you need to sleep. And with that in mind, it's hard to see these extended run times as anything other than robbery. There are so many brilliant things to watch at the moment, but we can't watch everything we planned because the Bear has decided to make a meandering, plot-free 70-minute wedding episode. Already, I'm planning to carve up Stranger Things like a frozen meat raffle and dole it out in pieces over the course of a couple months. It's the only way I'll survive it. Please, creators, I'm begging you to stop the bloat. It's something that the Bear especially should remember. The greatest episode it ever made, the one that initially put it on the map as a force to be reckoned with, was Review, the penultimate episode of Season 1. Filmed in a single catastrophic take, it was a masterpiece of escalating tension. Yes. And it was only 21 minutes long. Those 21 minutes contained more action, more character work, more story than this season's 71-minute slogathon. This is the direction we should be heading in. Tighter, less fatty, more exciting. Throughout Season 4, the Bear repeatedly cut to a sign reading, "Every second counts." It's time it started taking its own advice. That's the end of that article. I'm going to sip some more water and gather my thoughts, and I'll be right back. No great movie is too long, and no bad movie is short enough. How do I wrap this up? Because I don't want to suffer from what I'm ranting about. Even my favorite directors suffer from their stuff being too fucking long. Like every Scorsese movie now is 4 hours. That's not necessary. The Dune movies, I've got a whole rant about Denis Villeneuve and how his work thus far completely lacks humanity or any kind of emotional investment. And our slogathon, the Dune movies, brilliantly executed, very pretty to look at. I don't give a fuck about any of the characters, and I don't give a fuck about anything that's happening to them. There's no fucking tension. It just tells you should feel tense, or it tells you should feel concerned. It doesn't earn my fucking interest. Here's something that I suffered for a long time, and I'll preface with this. I'm a very patient person, perhaps to a fault. I'm also a smart and intelligent person, sometimes perhaps to a fault. Like I'm not one of those people that goes around and thinks they're smarter. I don't have the Dunning-Kruger thing, thankfully. And believe me, I've got enough. I'm self-critical and generally anxious enough that I check myself a lot, perhaps to a fault, more than I should, okay? So this is to say, I have no problem watching something silent. I have no problem watching something that's long. As a matter of fact, I enjoy getting my phone away from me, my cell phone. I enjoy not having it on me. However, for a long time, especially in my 20s, and it kind of started to change in my early to mid 30s, I thought maybe I was the problem. If a book or a movie or a TV show wasn't really grabbing me, I thought I was the problem. I don't have attention deficit disorder of any type. But I thought I just, something was wrong with me. I just can't focus. I've got too much going on. I can't focus on this thing. I thought I was the problem. But then over time, it started to change. And I talked with my mom about this in length too. And we both kind of started having the same realization at the same time as we talked about it over the span of a few years. We're not the problem. The problem is the story being presented is not earning my attention. It's not grabbing my attention. It's not, well, for a lot of shows, it doesn't really respect viewers' time. Like if a movie is going to be 2.5 hours long plus, it needs to give people an intermission. At least in a theatrical release in the movie theater, give people a fucking intermission and be a competent, handy enough writer and editor, just creator in general, to be able to work in an intermission in a way that the overall film experience will not suffer. Give people a chance to go take a piss, because you're asking too fucking much of people who are spending the time and money they don't really have anymore, especially. Give people a little fucking break, if you're gonna be that long, one. But also, so much stuff. Turns out, I've changed my opinion. I'm not the problem. It's not grabbing me. I don't give a shit about the characters. I feel no emotional or intellectual investment. I feel no curiosity. It's not grabbing my imagination toward these characters or the events that are happening. And the Denis Villeneuve movies are a really good example of this. a lot of spectacle, a lot of big shit, very pretty, amazing soundscape, amazing technology and craftsmanship, but not the craftsmanship of storytelling and not the craftsmanship of editing. I don't give a shit. And Dune, it's one of my favorite books of all time, man. One of my favorites of all time. That book grabbed my goddamn attention. And a lot of people have trouble getting through like the first 150 pages. And I understand that. It's a lot to take in, but it wasn't a lot for me. Like I said, I'm a patient person. I'm a smart person. I can invest in something if it's worth investing in. But the Denis Villeneuve Dune adaptations, it's just, it suffers from something that the creators of South Park, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, say. The Dune series suffers from this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then, and this, and that, and this, and that. It doesn't really interest. It doesn't earn my emotional investment. And a lot of that comes down to, like I said, a pervasive problem Villeneuve has where there's just an utter lack of humanity. And again, that's its own rant. I might go on another time. The thing Matt Stone and Trey Parker say when it comes to storytelling, here's how I will wrap it up. Between each plot point, between the beats, right, the overall beats, you should have one or two things, but, therefore. So this happens, therefore this happens, therefore this happens, but this happens, therefore that happens, but this other thing happens, therefore this happens. See, there's a logical thing going on, and there's emotional investment happening, and it grabs you and takes you along. And they warn that if between your beats you have not a but, not a therefore, but a and then your script is fucked. This happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. What a brilliant and succinct way to write out, to summarize good storytelling. But, therefore, versus and then, and then, and then, and then. Hopefully you catch my drift here. And I'll say this in regards to TV. Star Trek: The Next Generation, I'm a big fan. Deep Space Nine, I'm a big fan. Breaking Bad, I'm a big fan. Columbo, I'm a big fan. And the thing with these shows is that there are, like, the runtimes on average about like 45 minutes per episode. However, something's always happening. Plus, it's earned my attention, either my curiosity or emotional investment or intellectual investment. Often it's all three is how you really grab my attention, is you earn those three investments: intellectual, emotional, and curiosity or imagination. Those shows deserve to be that long. But if you're not going to earn those three investments from your audience, then shorten the episode. Make it 22 minutes, 30 minutes tops. Keep it tight, keep it moving, keep it developing. And I'll say this, I would rather have, instead of an 8-episode season of 45-minute plus episodes, I would much rather have a 16-episode season of 22 to 30-minute episodes. I would rather writers get to work together in a room and stay on a project and grow with the project. I would rather characters and the story actually get breathing room, Because having an hour-long episode doesn't necessarily mean breathing room, but having like shorter things where a lot happens, where there's momentum and development over a span of many episodes, even if there's a bottle episode. I enjoy bottle episodes. Give the characters in the story some breathing room, but also make sure that each chapter in the story keeps moving forward, and keeps getting those investments from the audience, earning those investments. Okay, that's all I've got to say about this. So I'm going to now let my camera charge and figure out what the hell I'm going to talk about in this week's bonus episode. If you want to help support the show, and if you want to get access to the bonus episodes, become a patron at patreon.com/ThatThingWithJames. That's all for now. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope to catch you next time. Bye.